Imagine a world where staged accidents lead to multi-million-dollar payouts,
Right?
where doctors prescribe unnecessary surgeries just to inflate claims, and, well, fake IDs are fueling a sprawling criminal
It
enterprise.
sounds like fiction, but
Exactly. That's the complex and, frankly, pretty surprising reality we're diving into today.
it's a truly intricate web. I mean, far more organized than most people would ever guess. It's like a meticulously designed machine almost,
Hmm.
but built entirely on fraud.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this deep dive focuses on a massive, intricate fraud scheme centered around construction accidents and medical treatments right here in New York.
Hmm.
And for our insights, we're drawing from two incredibly compelling sources. First, there's a civil complaint, often referred to as Schweitzer, the Second Act.
And ROCO, that's the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act.
Oh,
Powerful stuff.
right. A major tool against organized crime. This complaint lays out all the detailed allegations.
And the second source?
That's a fraudemic alert from an industry expert.
Mhm.
It gives us the broader context,
Mhm.
and reveals how these schemes are actually being dismantled, which is fascinating.
Okay, so our mission today is really to unpack the inner workings of this fraudemic. We want to pull back the curtain on the key players, understand exactly how different entities allegedly collaborated
And they work
and
together.
work together, yeah, and uncover the surprising ways this pervasive criminal enterprise is now being brought to light. You're definitely in for some serious aha moments, I think.
Okay, let's dig in. Let's start with the cast of characters, because this is not a small, isolated operation we're talking about.
know.
On one side, we have the plaintiffs. Roosevelt Road Re, Ltd., that's a foreign limited company from Bermuda, actually, authorized to do business in New York.
Okay.
And Tradesman Program Managers, LLC, a New York-based company providing services like administrative and investigative support to workers' compensation carriers. They're the ones bringing this civil action.
Got it. And on the other side, the defendants, the alleged participants in this huge fraud. The complaint groups them into four main categories.
Bart.
And it describes them as working together as an association, in fact, enterprise. Basically, a group associating for a common illegal purpose, for financial gain.
So, first up, the legal service defendants. These are really the alleged architects of the whole scheme.
The alleged ringleader.
Yeah, this includes William Schweitzer and Associates, PC, the firm itself,
Mm-hmm.
its founder and managing partner, William Schweitzer, and a longtime partner, Giovanni John C. Merlino, all licensed attorneys in New York.
And their role, as alleged, was central. They're seen as the masterminds, basically directing the recruitment, filing the fraudulent claims and lawsuits, coordinating the whole enterprise.
Like conductors, really.
Exactly, conductors of this orchestra of deception.
Then we have this truly extensive network of medical provider defendants. I mean, a wide array of professional corporations, individuals across different medical specialties in New York and New Jersey.
And what's really striking, as the complaint points out, is that many of these medical practices, Brooklyn Medical Practice, Big Apple Pain Management, several others, they actually operated from the exact same address, 410 Ditmas Avenue in Brooklyn.
Wow, the same building.
This same address.
Yeah.
Think of it like a coordinated hub for this alleged fraud.
That co-location, that's a huge red flag right there.
Absolutely. And the role of these medical providers, allegedly, was to, well, facilitate the fraud by providing medically unnecessary excessive healthcare services.
Yeah.
They produce these fraudulent diagnoses and then use those diagnoses to inflate the settlement values. That was, as we'll see, a really crucial step in the scheme. They made the fake injuries look real, at least on paper.
Okay, so legal, medical. Who's next?
Next, we have the runner defendants. These are individuals just identified as John Doe numbers 1 through 25 in the complaint. Citizenship unknown, but their function is pretty clear.
Right, the recruiters.
Exactly. These were the people on the ground, bringing in construction workers to either stage entirely fake accidents or, maybe more commonly, to greatly exaggerate minor injuries into these larger, more lucrative claims.
Lucrative full-body claims, I think the complaint calls them.
That's the term. And these runners, they were sometimes called investigators or brokers, even paralegals. But their core job was essentially client acquisition for the alleged scheme.
Okay, and the final group.
The funding defendants. These are listed as XYZ corporations 1 through 25, so business entities of unknown organization, plus other unidentified medical providers and facilities.
They provided the cash.
Essentially, yeah. Their role was providing these high-interest litigation funding loans. Directly or indirectly, this money went to the legal folks, the runners, the medical providers, and even the claimants themselves.
So it fueled the whole
It
thing.
was the fuel. This infusion of cash kept the entire fraudulent operation flowing.
So now that we kind of know the players, how did this elaborate fraud machine actually work, step by step? The complaint says it started back in at least 2018.
Yeah, at least 2018, but with a big escalation, apparently since 2020.
Okay.
And the process, it typically starts with recruitment. The runners, often directed by the legal service defendants, they target construction workers, the claimants.
Right.
They'd convince them either to stage a fake accident entirely or, exaggerate a minor, maybe real injury into one of these lucrative full-body claims.
And what was in it for the claimants, besides the obvious potential settlement down the line?
Well, they were allegedly promised workers' comp benefits for not working, plus extra money through these litigation funding loans we just talked about.
Oh, okay.
And they were even told, supposedly, that their payout would increase if they had more surgeries, more rehab, as long as they stuck to this predetermined, often aggressive treatment plan.
Wow. So after maybe an initial ER visit.
Right. After an initial ER visit, the runners would then refer these claimants directly to the Schwitzer firm.
Got it. And then the legal machinery kicks in.
Exactly. And what's interesting here is how they allegedly used the system. The Schwitzer defendants represented claimants in both personal injury lawsuits filed in state courts, NY Supreme Courts, and workers' compensation claims filed with the State Workers' Comp Board.
At the same time.
Concurrently, yeah. This dual approach, it seems, was designed to maximize the potential profit from each claimant.
Makes sense from their perspective.
They'd file all the documents attesting to these alleged accidents and injuries. And, get this, often it was the attorneys verifying the documents, not the claimants themselves. And the goal was pretty clear. Make these fraudulent claims look legitimate enough to get accepted, get approved by the Workers' Comp Board, by the courts, leading to these huge settlements, or, at the very least, significantly increased costs for the insurers in administration and litigation.
And the complaint actually points out this isn't a totally new playbook, right?
No, not at all. It explicitly states that this conspiracy shares many structural elements with schemes that have already led to federal criminal convictions and civil judgments in the past. So it's a recognized pattern of this kind of organized fraud.
Okay, so the legal side sets it up. What about the medical component? You said that was particularly disturbing.
It really is. The Schwitzer defendants allegedly directed claimants to specific medical provider defendants. They created this, sophisticated referral network designed purely to inflate settlement values.
And that connects back to the shared address, 410 Dipmus.
Exactly. We mentioned earlier that providers like Brooklyn Medical Practice, Big Apple Pain Management, they operated from the same address. That just underscores the alleged coordination.
So having them all in one place, what was the practical advantage for the scheme? Just convenience?
Well, it creates a very streamlined patient journey, right? It simplifies the referral process for the whole enterprise, makes it easier to orchestrate these predetermined treatment protocols, and it gets deeper. Some providers allegedly use different corporate identities, like McCulloch Ortho using NYS&J, or pain physicians using LR Med or BL Pain, apparently to hide what the complaint calls circles of self-referrals.
Trying to obscure the connections.
Yeah, precisely. And there were even allegations of undisclosed shared ownership interests. For instance, Dr. Salahin of Brooklyn Medical Practice was allegedly also a partner in Total Ortho, directly profiting from his own referrals for surgery.
Wow. So how did the actual medical treatment work then, allegedly?
Well, the medical providers would conduct these initial exams, but the allegation is they weren't intended to genuinely diagnose anything. They were predetermined to find injuries that would require extensive and expensive treatment.
So they knew what they were looking for.
Seemingly, yes. They'd routinely order unnecessary diagnostic tests, MRIs of multiple body parts, sometimes duplicative, not medically indicated at all.
And the results of those tests?
That's another key part. Radiology reports, specifically mentioning cold radiology in the complaint, allegedly routinely deviated from what the actual imaging showed, claiming things like ACL tears or neck injuries, where the ER record showed absolutely nothing of the sort.
So just inventing injuries based on the scans, or misrepresenting them.
Misrepresented them, fabricating findings. And these fraudulent imaging reports then became the, quote, evidence used to justify months and months of physical therapy, chiropractic, acupuncture.
A conservative treatment.
Right, all presented as failed conservative treatment. But it was really just a manufactured paper trail designed to ultimately justify the big-ticket items. Highly lucrative invasive surgeries, back surgeries, neck surgeries, shoulder surgeries.
And you mentioned something truly shocking earlier about the surgeons.
Yeah, this is pretty incredible. The allegation is that surgeons often routinely did not consult the MRI films themselves. They just relied on these reports that were allegedly calculated to misrepresent the claimant's conditions.
Just relying on the piece of paper, not the actual image, that's
Right.
that's deeply unsettling. What could possibly motivate that level of disregard?
Well, the primary motivation, as laid out in the complaint, it appears to be financial, pure and simple. Which brings us to the financial fuel behind this whole operation.
The funding defendants and the loans.
Exactly. These funding defendants provided high-interest litigation funding loans, secured against the anticipated settlement payments. Now, some money went to the claimants, sure,
But not all of it.
not by a long shot.
Mm.
The bulk was allegedly redistributed back to the runners, back to the medical providers, and back to the legal service defendants.
Which created this double recovery incentive you mentioned.
Precisely. The Schwitzer defendants allegedly had direct or indirect ownership in some of these funding entities. There's one named Frat Boys with Money, LLC, which, interestingly, shared the Schwitzer firm's address.
No way.
Yeah. So they were allegedly profiting from both the high interest on the loans and their contingency fees from the settlements. A win-win for them.
And the medical providers, how were they incentivized?
They were incentivized, allegedly, to provide this false documentation in exchange for that steady stream of patient referrals from the Schwitzer defendants. They sometimes got a cut of the loan proceeds too, maybe disguised as courtroom testimony payments, or they just maintained these excessively large liens on any eventual recovery.
And all of this just kept inflating the final payout demands.
Absolutely. The existence of a big workers' comp, Leanne, say $500,000, allowed the Schwitzer defendants to demand a correspondingly higher amount in settlement talks. The complaint calculates that claims involving injections and surgeries were designed to yield average recoveries somewhere between $1.5 million and $2 million
Per claim.
per claim, on average for those types. It shows how every single piece of this alleged scheme was geared towards maximizing that financial gain.
Okay, so beyond the core legal and medical fraud, the complaint also details some pretty shady recruitment and documentation practices.
Yeah, there's sworn testimony from a former Schwitzer firm employee. It details alleged ambulance-chasing staff being encouraged to go to doctor appointments, to recruit patients, provide transportation, even persuade patients to switch law firms,
Oh.
with promises of quicker workers' comp payments, large settlements.
Huh.
They mention things like a $5,000 upfront payment just to switch lawyers.
Wow. And the runners were key here, too.
Definitely. They were allegedly employed specifically to sign up clients right at hospitals, accident scenes, doctors' offices, wherever they can find them.
And there's a darker side to the money trail for the runners, too, right?
Yes, there are allegations that the runners got portions of these high-interest loan proceeds. And some of that money might have been further diverted to recompense organized criminal elements for arranging the unlawful immigration of claimants.
That's a really serious allegation, connecting it to potentially organized crime facilitating illegal immigration.
It is. And the complaint goes further, alleging the Schwitzer defendants used Spanish-language OSHA training courses through sponsorships, advertising, attending them as another recruitment channel.
OSHA training. How does that work for recruitment?
Well, it gives them access to a vulnerable population of workers, and the complaint alleges this potentially aided unlawful immigration and work authorization. It even claims John Merlino, one of the legal defendants, attended and gave instruction without proper credentials, and that the firm advertised an impossible same-day OSHA certification.
Just trying to lure people in any way possible, it seems.
That's the allegation. And on the documentation front, the medical provider defendants allegedly routinely failed to accurately complete required forms about who referred the patient or what other doctors they were seeing,
Yeah.
or they'd just provide false or blank answers
Why?
to try and hide those circles of self-referrals we talked about, to make it harder to see the connections.
And all these fraudulent documents, claim forms, medical reports, operative notes.
All of it. Health insurance claim forms, bills of particulars, workers' comp forms. They were allegedly transmitted by mail or wire, knowingly containing false information about the accidents, the injuries, the necessity of treatment, which of course brings in potential mail fraud and wire fraud charges.
Okay, this is incredibly complex. To really make it concrete for you listening, let's look at some specific case examples detailed in the complaint. Claimants A, B, C, and D.
Right. And what becomes really clear across these examples is A chillingly consistent playbook. It starts with minor initial injuries, sometimes almost no injury reported initially,
Right.
and then rapid escalation through allegedly fraudulent diagnoses from this same network of providers we've been discussing, which leads, inevitably it seems, to unnecessary and often multiple major surgeries.
So let's take claimant A. What was the initial report?
Clement A, alleged accident, initially reported left shoulder and lower extremity injuries. The ER discharged him in just 2 hours. Instructions: over-the-counter pain meds, return to work. Seems minor.
Okay, very minor. But the alleged fraudulent treatment.
Tells a completely different story. Despite those minor initial complaints, claimant A received extensive invasive treatment. Referrals for imaging of the hand, neck, and back areas not even mentioned initially.
And cold radiology.
Kolb radiology allegedly falsely reported an ACL tear in the left knee and neck injuries. Claimant A then underwent numerous excessive injections to his neck and back.
And then came the surgeries.
Then came the surgeries. Dr. Marola allegedly recommended major spine surgery and anterior cervical discectomy fusion, even though claimant A had previously been cleared for work.
Despite being cleared for work.
Yes, Dr. DeMora performed that cervical surgery. Dr. Persich performed right ankle surgery, even though a radiology report apparently showed no tear. And then Drs. Wright and McCulloch performed right wrist surgery, even though the initial fall was supposedly on his left side.
Wait, surgery on the wrong side compared to the initial fall?
That's the allegation. In total, for claimant A, 6 surgeries plus neurological treatment, the discrepancy is just stark. The initial ER report does not line up at all with these subsequent extensive, invasive procedures, all fueled, allegedly, by fraudulent documents submitted to workers' comp and the courts.
6 surgeries. Okay, what about claimant B? Similar pattern.
Very similar pattern, yes. Claimant B, a 28-year-old, allegedly slipped on black ice, or maybe plywood, or maybe a pipe fell on him. The story kept changing.
Red flag right there.
Huge red flag. No witnesses mentioned for some versions. Yet, despite the inconsistencies in ER records showing only minor issues, he retained the Schweitzer firm the very next day.
And the diagnoses followed quickly.
Immediately, allegedly falsely diagnosed with serious injuries,
Right.
cervical, lumbar herniations, left shoulder tear, right knee injuries. Brooklyn Medical Practice, which the complaint calls a gatekeeper clinic, allegedly magnified his injuries, declared him totally disabled without objective testing, and prescribed excessive physical therapy.
Building the paper trail again.
Exactly. Community medical imaging reported tears and herniations, allegedly contrary to the ER records. North Shore Family Chiropractic and Unicorn Acupuncture provided hundreds, literally hundreds, of chiropractic adjustments and acupuncture sessions for over 2 years.
With no relief?
With reported no relief, which was then allegedly used as the pretext, the foundation, for more aggressive treatment. Big Apple Pain Management administered multiple neck and back injections,
Leading to?
leading to Dr. Vadim Lerman of Total Ortho performing a major invasive spine surgery, a lumbar discectomy and fusion, on claimant B, who was only 29 years old at the time, and this was just 6 months after the alleged accident.
6 months seems really fast for that kind of surgery.
It completely bypasses standard medical guidelines, which usually require much longer periods of trying less aggressive conservative care first.
Yeah.
And another doctor, Shalamov, sought approval for shoulder surgery too.
So again, the pattern holds. Aggressive, unnecessary treatment, even after independent medical examiners, the IMEs, determined he'd reached maximum medical improvement.
Precisely. The IMEs said he was done improving, but the alleged fraudulent treatment just kept going.
And the complaints for claimants C and D, they paint a similar picture, right? More inconsistencies, more rapid escalation to surgery.
Exactly. Claimant C, 27 years old. Allegedly, a form fell on him, but he kept working for hours, even laughed it off, according to witnesses. The ER's only objective positive finding was an unrelated condition, an undescended testicle, discharged with Tylenol, told to return to work.
Seems pretty clear-cut.
You'd think. But after retaining Schweitzer, he provided vastly different versions of the accident to different medical providers, like 3 beams falling, or a large metal frame, or a panel of iron and plywood, totally inconsistent.
And the treatment.
Followed the same alleged playbook.
It's
aggressive and unnecessary. Excessive physical therapy from places like interventional pain management, allegedly just to create that paper foundation to justify surgeries later on.
Even when objective evidence wasn't there.
Right. Dr. Kwan diagnosed a concussion despite no acute findings on imaging. Treatment continued for 2 years, even after IMEs found no impairment and an excellent prognosis. Dr. Kosharsky at Pain Physicians immediately recommended trigger point injections despite clear ultrasounds, performed unnecessary shockwave therapy, nerve blocks, prescribed unnecessary equipment, all leading to back surgery when the treatment inevitably failed.
And more surgeries followed.
Yes. Dr. Tomasello recommended knee surgery. Claimant C refused standard epidurals but still got a knee arthroscopy. Dr. Kassman performed a left shoulder arthroscopy. Dr. Demore recommended and performed an anterior cervical decompression fusion, another major spine surgery.
And then another shoulder surgery.
Unbelievably, yes. Dr. Kassman allegedly performed another right shoulder arthroscopy very shortly after the cervical fusion, which the complaint notes was medically contraindicated because of the necessary healing times.
It just seems relentless. What about claimant D?
Claimant D, 48 years old, again, inconsistent accident story, fell 10-15 feet off a ladder, or maybe 8 feet downstairs. One version even said 50 feet. He was also allegedly just retrieving tools from a worksite where he'd recently been fired.
Suspicious circumstances?
Very. Initial ER evaluation showed no pain or discomfort in the neck, no acute injury on CT scans of the spine, minimal shoulder injury. Discharged the same day.
But retained Schwitzer the next day.
Retained Schwitzer 1 day later. Immediately started chiropractic, PT, acupuncture with those providers at the 410 Ditmas address. Years of treatment from North Shore Chiropractic, years of acupuncture from Unicorn Acupuncture, despite only moderate relief. Big Apple Pain Management gave cervical steroid injections less than a month after the accident, and lumbar injections without even doing diagnostic testing first.
And surgeries.
Of course. Doctors Lerman and Kumar at Total Ortho recommended and performed an anterior cervical discectomy and fusion and other spine surgery within 3 months of the alleged injury. They apparently stated that 3 months of physical therapy was sufficient to declare conservative treatment failed.
3 months? Again, that seems incredibly fast.
Highly questionable, according to the standard guidelines. Claimant D also underwent another lumbar laminectomy later on.
So the pattern across A, B, C, and D is just undeniable based on these allegations.
It really is. The overarching takeaway from these specific cases is deeply disturbing. A consistent alleged disregard for the actual patient condition, manipulation of records, and this relentless push towards the most lucrative, most invasive procedures. All, it appears, to inflate the value of these ultimately fraudulent claims.
It's staggering. So if this is all happening, this massive alleged fraud, what's being done about it? Is anyone fighting back?
Well, yes. And this is where it gets really interesting moving into the broader context. There are major developments underway. Federal authorities have actually begun unsealing indictments. They're arresting gang members, specifically mentioning the 18th Street Gang, including its leader over in Jackson Heights, Queens.
Okay, gang arrests. How does that connect to insurance fraud?
Here's the direct link. Roosevelt Avenue in Queens is described by authorities as an open-air market for fake identification documents. We're talking passports, green cards, social security cards, driver's licenses, even those OSHA cards we mentioned earlier.
The fake ID market.
Exactly. And this illegal trade was, according to authorities, a primary driver of income for this gang. And crucially, it's directly linked to poisoning and propping up thousands upon thousands of staged accidents and staged medical treatments.
So the fake IDs were essential infrastructure for the fraud.
Absolutely essential.
Yeah.
It allowed people to work under false pretenses, file claims under false identities. It greased the wheels for the entire scheme.
And the authorities involved show this is being taken seriously.
Extremely seriously. You've got the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York, the FBI, NYPD, the Queens DA, Department of Labor, U.S. Secret Service, DHS Immigration and Customs Enforcement, all involved.
That's a major multi-agency effort.
It really demonstrates a high level of commitment to dismantling not just the fraud rings, but also these violent transnational gangs and criminal enterprises that underpin them.
And the Fraudemic Alert source highlights the role of federal courts here.
Yes, it makes a strong point about the power of federal courts in uncovering this kind of fraud. It contrasts them with what it calls the Wild West of some New York state courts. Federal courts are described as a more serious venue,
So,
with fairer, more efficient, more logical, and less forgiving practice rules. Federal judges, the alert says, are grown up and have no patience for the kind of shenanigans or delays that might get overlooked in state court.
can you give an example?
Yeah, there's a specific example cited. In one related HICO case, a defense lawyer was actually ordered to show cause, in all caps, why he shouldn't be sanctioned for apparent plagiarism.
Plagiarism.
Yeah, just copy-pasting arguments from his co-defendant's briefs. The judge called it out for wasting scarce judicial resources. It just shows that heightened level of scrutiny, the stricter adherence to rules you see in federal proceedings, they take things very seriously.
It definitely sends a message. The alert also detailed something about a Facebook investigation.
Right, the anatomy of a fraud ring Facebook investigation. It's a fascinating look at how data analysis, even just open source social media research, can expose these deep-rooted and massive fraud networks.
So what did they find?
In one specific case they tracked, involving a plaintiff named Jose Son Martinez, extensive research found he was Facebook friends with at least 18 other plaintiffs who had filed similar trip and fall lawsuits.
18. That's not a coincidence.
Highly unlikely. And the connections went deeper. Many of these friends were represented by the same law firm, Liakis Law, which is actually named in multiple civil RICO suits itself. Many of them also treated with and had surgery performed by the same doctor, a Dr. Alexios Epizidis. And get this, Dr. Epizidis was suspended by the New York State Workers' Comp Board back in 2015 and is a named defendant in numerous other fraud and medical malpractice lawsuits.
Wow. So same lawyer, same doctor. What else?
They often served as witnesses for each other's lawsuits. They had shared addresses listed in some cases, and many of them were citizens of the same town in the Dominican Republic, Jarabacoa.
The connections are just layered on top of each other.
Exactly. The investigation also uncovered what they call hot potatoing of clients' cases being passed between different law firms allegedly involved in these schemes, like Liakis Law to Bogaraz, Wingate to Hatch and Rose.
What's the takeaway from that Facebook investigation part?
It really highlights that, as the alert says, all it takes is a serious commitment to scrutiny and details to root out these patterns. They simply cannot be truly hidden if you look closely enough.
But there's a warning too, right?
Yes, a practical warning. As this kind of information becomes public, the bad actors might instruct their clients to delete their social media accounts. So the advice is to be aggressive with legal discovery, trying to get access to those closed or deleted accounts. It's a constant back and forth.
A real cat and mouse game. And this isn't just a New York problem, is it? This fraudemic.
No, absolutely not. The alert mentions a similar fraud ring apprehended down in Florida. This one involved DMV employees taking bribes to issue driver's licenses without proper testing to undocumented immigrants.
DMV fraud connected to immigration.
Right. And it raises these significant public safety concerns that go way beyond just insurance fraud. Think about the ease with which individuals could acquire fake identities, the implications for, background checks, national security.
Yeah.
It shows how this fraud can intersect with other, potentially even more serious criminal activities. It's a national issue.
Definitely puts it in a broader, more concerning perspective. So given all this, what are the ongoing defense strategies? How are insurers and investigators fighting back on a daily basis?
Well, one key strategy highlighted is the importance of e-filing all documents, especially things like examinations under oath or EUOs.
Why e-filing specifically?
Transparency. It increases transparency, makes information more readily available, and essentially provides shared intelligence in this ongoing fight against fraud. Putting everything on the digital record makes it harder to hide things.
And the fraudsters don't like that, presumably?
Predictably, no. The alert anticipates that those perpetrating fraud will likely vocally complain about DC's defense counsel e-filing too much. It's seen as a predictable response when transparency increases and scrutiny tightens.
Makes sense. If the light gets brighter, the cockroaches complain.
That's one way to put it, yeah. It's a clear sign that the increased scrutiny is actually having an effect.
So wrapping this all up, what does this mean for you, the listener? We've gone through a lot of detail here.
I think this deep dive really reveals not just the staggering scale of this type of insurance fraud, but also the interconnected web of legal, medical, financial, even explicitly criminal elements like gangs and fake IDs all working together.
It absolutely underscores the importance of critical thinking, doesn't it? When you're presented with information, especially complex claims. And it shows the power of thorough investigation to uncover truths that are deliberately hidden.
Definitely. We've seen how seemingly isolated incidents, one worker's fall, one doctor's report, can actually be part of a much larger coordinated scheme, right down to, shared office addresses and Facebook friend connections.
Which leads us to maybe a final thought to leave you with. In this age where we're just overloaded with information all the time, how can we as individuals and maybe as a society get better at spotting these patterns of deception, especially when they are so expertly disguised as legitimate claims or normal events?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do we cultivate that vigilance and skepticism without becoming overly cynical? It's a tough balance.
It really is. Something definitely worth thinking about long after this deep dive ends.